Before I died, my parents scolded me every single day. My mother blamed me for ruining her career path. If I hadn't gotten pregnant with you that year, she'd often say, I would have been the head of the department by now. My father said I was the reason his business failed. Ever since you were born, every investment I've made has gone under. You're a curse. They only loved my older sister. She was just like them, studious, gentle, and graceful. Meanwhile, I was like some wild monkey that hadn't fully evolved. Every day, I was either fighting, jumping around, or getting into trouble, embarrassing them over and over again. If only that pregnancy had been aborted, this family would have been perfect, they often sighed. In a way, it was like they truly wished I were dead. That day, as if to fulfill their wish, I gave everything I had. I finally retrieved the key piece of intelligence, enough to take down an entire drug trafficking ring, but the cost was the complete exposure of my undercover identity at the bar where I worked. Thankfully, I managed to send the intel out just in time. But before my fellow officers could reach me, the traffickers tortured me in every possible brutal way. They shattered my limbs and disfigured my body beyond recognition. Then, slice by slice, they skinned me alive, but wouldn't let me die just yet. I clenched my teeth so tightly to keep from screaming that my teeth shattered inside my mouth. Finally, I heard the thunderous sound of the police raiding in. The criminals were quickly subdued. My captain rushed in and caught my broken body in his arms. That usually cold and stoic man broke down sobbing. Dara, I'm so sorry. We were too late. Please don't fall asleep. Hang in there. The doctors can still save you, he whispered desperately into my ear. I struggled to open my eyes, though everything was a blur of blood and pain, and whispered, Captain, donate my body. Whatever organs can still be used, please give them to those who need them, and don't tell my parents I'm dead. After saying that, I smiled in peace and closed my eyes. I was rushed to Central Hospital in Chicago, but by the time I arrived, I had already passed away. As per my final wish, the hospital immediately began the procedure to harvest my corneas for my sister. She had been waiting a long time. If she hadn't received a transplant, the doctor said she would have gone blind. The lead surgeon for the operation was my mother. After the surgery, she and the nurses bowed in silence to thank me for my ultimate sacrifice. Then, my father calmly pulled the sterile sheet up over my body. Just one glance, though she had seen countless tragedies in her long medical career, when my mother saw the condition of my body, she gasped for breath and trembled uncontrollably. This girl was only 24, so young. She suffered so much. If her parents ever saw this, it would break their hearts. The nurse mumbled softly behind her surgical mask. My soul floated above, suspended in midair, and I heard her words. I wanted so badly to ask her, Mom, if you knew that girl was me, your own daughter, would your heart still ache like that? But I was already dead. I could no longer speak. The surgery was a success. My parents and my sister were overjoyed. Dad turned to Mom and asked, I heard the cornea donor was around Baby's age? Such an incredible young person. Baby, that was the nickname for my older sister, which meant precious. As for me, my name was Dara, just another one in the family's eyes. Mom replied, Yes, very young. The police brought her in. Must have died in the line of duty, such a tragedy. But her parents must be so proud. If only we knew who she was. We could at least visit her grave someday and thank her properly. They both sighed, genuinely touched, until Mom's face suddenly hardened. That Lynn Dara girl, she snapped, has no conscience at all. Baby just went through a major surgery and she can't even come visit. Is her shady job so consuming she can't make a single call? Dad growled. That disgrace of a daughter. I'd rather never hear from her again. My sister chimed in coldly. Who needs her attention anyway? The farther she stays away from me, the better. Just then, both their phones rang almost simultaneously. Dr. Lee, the hospital director, called my mom personally. Congratulations, doctor. Carter, after thorough evaluation, the board has officially appointed you as the new head of ENT, effective tomorrow. This was the position she had dreamed of for years. Meanwhile, Dad got a call from his assistant. "Mr. Carter, our proposal for the Lakeside Redevelopment Project has been approved. We won the bid." That project was his last chance to pull the company out of bankruptcy. If it succeeded, his business would rise from the ashes. Overwhelmed with joy, my parents embraced my sister tightly. "My baby," Mom cried. "You truly are the lucky star of this family. Ever since your surgery, everything is falling into place." The small hospital room was filled with laughter and celebration. But in my ears, I heard only the muffled sobs, coming from somewhere else. It was my captain and my fellow officers. They were holding a quiet memorial for me in secret. Because the drug ring still had dangerous remnants, they couldn't risk a public ceremony. My captain wept until he could barely stand. "You idiot! You stupid girl!" he kept repeating over and over. He was the one who had trained me with his own hands. To me, he wasn't just a superior. He was a mentor, a brother, a father figure in this life. The chief gently placed a hand on his shoulder, his voice choked with emotion. "She gave everything for the people. The people will never forget her." "We'll also make sure to take care of Officer Lee's family," someone said. "But what's going on with Dara?" Grandma asked softly. "She hasn't called me in days. I tried reaching her, but she didn't pick up." That evening, as soon as my parents walked in, Grandma, sitting in her wheelchair, face full of worry, immediately asked about me. The moment my name was mentioned, the smiles on their faces vanished. "That disgraceful girl! Why do you keep bringing her up?" my father said coldly, his voice full of contempt. Grandma fell silent. She quietly turned her wheelchair around and rolled back toward her room. I followed her instinctively, reaching out to help her push the chair, but my hand passed right through the handlebar. "Meow!" A sharp cry rang out. Suddenly, a large orange blur came charging toward me. It was instinct. I opened my arms, trying to catch it. But just like before, I couldn't hold anything. The cat thudded to the floor and let out a pained yelp. But within seconds, it bounced right back up, rubbing against my legs, flopping over onto its back, belly up, waiting for me to scratch it like I always used to. Seeing this, Grandma's eyes welled with tears. "Dusty, you miss Dara too, don't you?" Dusty was the golden tabby I once rescued and raised. It had been a while since I'd seen him, and he looked even chubbier now. "That girl?" Grandma murmured. "Her birthday is tomorrow. I wonder if she's even remembered." As she muttered, she opened the drawer beside her bed. She pulled out a red envelope and a pair of bright red socks. It was only then that I remembered. Tomorrow would have been my birthday, my 25th. And in this whole house, only Grandma remembered. Meanwhile, in the living room, my parents were chatting cheerfully. "Our baby finally got her cornea transplant. God really is watching over us," my father said. "Once she's fully recovered, we should throw her a big celebration." Mom smiled brightly and nodded, but then furrowed her brow. "Isn't tomorrow some kind of special day?" she asked. "I don't know why, but I've had a strange feeling in my chest." She paused for a moment, then shook her head with a smile, trying to reassure herself. "It's probably nothing. We've been so busy lately. Promotions, contracts, surgeries. Let's just go to bed early." Dad grinned and squeezed her hand. "Things are finally turning around for us. With your promotion, the company winning that big federal bid, and baby recovering, our family's finally headed towards something great." Just as those words left his mouth, I heard a loud scream coming from Grandma's room. I flew there as fast as I could. The moment I arrived, I saw Dusty thrashing wildly, biting and tearing into the red socks like he'd lost his mind. In seconds, they were shredded beyond repair. Grandma, still in her wheelchair, cried out, "Dusty! What are you doing?" That was Dara's birthday gift. But Dusty didn't understand human words. He just kept snarling and ripping, destroying the gift meant for the girl no one else remembered. Hearing the commotion, my mother rushed over and opened the bedroom door. The moment she saw the scene in front of her, her brows furrowed. "Damn cat! I told you 1,000 times, we are not keeping it, but you insisted!" she shouted angrily. "All it ever does is cause trouble, just like that useless girl, Dara." With that, she raised her foot and kicked Dusty. He cried out in pain, then scrambled under the bed and hid. Mom stared at the shredded red socks on the floor, clearly irritated. "Mom, I've already bought you everything. Clothes, food. Why are you buying things on your own? You don't think what I buy is good enough? You want people to say I mistreat my own mother-in-law?" Grandma clutched the torn socks to her chest like they were treasure, speaking softly. "These aren't for me. These were birthday socks I prepared for Dara, for her zodiac year." "You're supposed to wear red in your zodiac year to ward off bad luck," she muttered. At that, both my parents froze. "In her zodiac year? Her birthday's coming up?" they asked in unison. Grandma's face turned red with anger. "You gave birth to her and don't even remember her birthday? What kind of parents are you?" Dad raised his chin defiantly. "From the moment she was born, everything in my career went downhill. Should I worship her just because I haven't blamed her yet?" Mom chimed in coldly. "If I hadn't accidentally gotten pregnant that year, I'd be department head by now. I wouldn't have had to suffer like this for so long." Grandma's voice trembled with fury. "You chose to have her. Are you saying Dara forced you to get pregnant?" She glanced down at the wheelchair beneath her, her voice bitter. "And what about me? Why do you think I'm stuck in this thing? Still can't let go of that cursed child?" That was it. Grandma couldn't hold it in anymore and burst into sobs. "The one who caused my paralysis was never Dara. It was your precious daughter, the one you both adore." My parents stood speechless. Back then, I was only 5. One night, my 7-year-old sister, Baby, suddenly threw a tantrum because she wanted ice cream. She cried, screamed, rolled on the floor, demanding that Grandma go buy it immediately. My parents weren't home, and Grandma didn't want to leave 2 small kids alone. She told Baby to wait until they came back. But Baby, spoiled and used to getting her way, wailed even louder, shouting she would die if she didn't get ice cream right that moment. Helpless, Grandma finally gave in and took a shortcut to the corner store. She never expected to run into a man having a drug-induced episode in a narrow alley. He lunged at her, snatched her money, and then picked up a stone from the ground, beating her violently while screaming that she was a demon, that he had to destroy evil spirits. Thankfully, a passerby saw what was happening and stepped in just in time to save her. But from that day on, Grandma never walked again. After it happened, she was so afraid my parents would scold Baby that she lied, saying she had insisted on going out to buy ice cream for the kids. My parents coldly responded, "What kind of grandmother buys ice cream on a freezing night? Were you trying to make Baby sick? And now look at you, crippled for life, all because of your recklessness." In the end, they even said, "It must have been Dara whining for food that made Grandma go out. That gluttonous girl. She's always been a burden." Grandma quickly defended, "It wasn't the kids' fault. It was me, my own stubbornness." Now, hearing the truth, my parents looked a little surprised, but it didn't last. My mom quickly scoffed with a cold laugh. "You've always favored Dara. Even now, you're still trying to protect her? This has nothing to do with Baby." Grandma was about to argue again when the house phone rang. Mom quickly picked it up. A young girl's voice came through the receiver. "Is this Dara's house? I just finished the final round of exams, and I did really well. I wanted to thank her so much." Mom frowned. "Who is this?" The girl hesitated. I'm one of the students Dara sponsored. She hasn't replied to my letters lately, so I tried calling her house." "Ma'am, has she been really busy? I've been calling and texting, but she never answers." There was a pause. Then Mom replied quietly, "I don't know. She doesn't live here anymore." And with that, she hung up. That night, as she was getting into bed, Mom turned to Dad hesitantly. "Tomorrow is Dara's birthday. Should we maybe call her?" Dad snorted. "You really have a short memory. You just got promoted to department head and already forgot what that girl brought upon us? Misfortune from the moment she was born." Mom didn't respond. She simply lay down quietly. Just then, Dad's phone rang. It was my sister, Baby, calling from the hospital. Dad answered immediately, voice full of concern. "Sweetheart, what's wrong? Are you in pain? Do you need anything?" Her commanding voice came through sharply. "I'm hungry!" "I want a hamburger," Dad quickly offered. "Right away, I'll go get one now." Since there were nurses caring for her around the clock, neither of my parents stayed overnight at the hospital. He checked the time. It was nearly midnight. Speaking softly, he tried to reason with her. "Sweetheart, you just had surgery. You can't eat greasy food yet. Besides, it's late. How about I bring it to you first thing tomorrow when we come visit?" But she wouldn't budge. "Number, I want it now. If I don't get it now, I won't eat it all tomorrow." Dad was about to gently coax her again when she cut him off coldly. "I'm so unlucky to have parents like this. I'm sick, and you won't even meet a simple request." At that, Mom, who'd been listening beside him, rushed to intervene, panic in her voice. "Sweetheart, don't be mad. Daddy will go right now, okay? Don't overthink things. We love you most, and you know it." My sister chuckled bitterly. "Love me most? If you loved me so much, why'd you even have another child?" Mom froze, her mind flashing to Grandma's paralyzed legs and everything she'd said earlier. Dad said nothing. He simply ended the call, put on his coat, and stepped out into the cold night to buy that hamburger. When I was alive, I never dared ask for anything in that house. I knew that the only thing waiting for me if I spoke up would be yelling and humiliation. But my sister? She could ask for anything, and our parents would bend over backwards to make it happen, just like now. Even though it was pitch black outside and rain poured down in sheets, Dad still went out to buy a hamburger for her. He rushed to the hospital and arrived with the burger in hand, but my sister had already fallen asleep. He didn't dare wake her, nor did he want to leave. So he simply sat silently at the end of the hallway, eyes heavy with exhaustion. At that moment, from the adjacent staff room, he overheard a frustrated conversation. "Unbelievable," one voice muttered. "We all thought the deputy head would get the promotion, but turns out Dr. Lee was appointed as the new department chief." Another voice replied, "Nothing we can do. The director said it came from higher up. Dr. Lee's a Gold Star family member. Priority case." The first voice scoffed. "Gold Star? Her husband's still alive and well. Her daughter just had a successful cornea transplant. Who's the fallen hero? Her elderly parents." Upon hearing that, my dad shot upright. "A Gold Star family? So your mother got the promotion because of that?" He stood up abruptly, tossed the hamburger into the trash, and ran out of the hospital. As soon as he burst through the front door at home, he shouted frantically at my mom. "Quick, call Dara!" She looked confused. "It's the middle of the night. Why are we calling her?" Growing impatient, he barked, "Just call!" "Don't ask questions." Frustrated but compliant, she dialed my number. The phone rang for a long time. No one picked up. Dad scowled, muttering, "Probably out drinking again, that useless girl. Might as well drink herself to death." Just as he was about to hang up, the call unexpectedly connected. A small, timid child's voice came through the receiver. "Hello, this is Dara's phone." "But she's not home right now," the little girl added quickly. Before my mom could say anything, the line cut off. She tried calling back, but the phone had already been turned off. "What the hell is going on?" my dad snapped, furious. "Is she doing this on purpose?" Meanwhile, I had already floated to my captain's house. That voice, that innocent, childlike voice, belonged to his daughter, little Maddie. Turns out, my personal phone had been taken home by my captain, kept safely locked away. At that moment, he was sternly scolding her. "Maddie, I told you. This is Officer Dara's phone. You're not supposed to touch it. Why did you answer? Maddie's eyes filled with tears. She whispered guiltily, because I saw the word mom on the screen. I thought maybe it was Dara's mom. She always said her mom missed her a lot. So I picked up. The captain's eyes welled with tears. He didn't say another word. He simply took the phone from her, quietly locked it away in the deepest drawer of his desk. Early the next morning, as my mother walked into her office, she saw a middle-aged man already waiting inside, standing respectfully, hands clasped, like he'd been there a while. "Chairman Carter, I sincerely apologize," the man said, bowing deeply. "The money I owed you, I've finally managed to gather it. Our finance department just processed the transfer. I came here in person to say I'm truly sorry. Please, sir, I hope you'll be generous enough to forgive me. I promise I'll never do something like this again." The man bent over so low it was almost groveling, an utterly humbled version of the arrogant man my father remembered. Years ago, this man owed my father's company a massive sum of money. It was a debt that dragged the company into crisis. It wasn't that he couldn't pay, he simply refused to. Back then, my father spent a fortune hiring top-tier lawyers to sue him, and this man had the audacity to sneer right to my father's face. "So what if you sue me? I don't have any assets in my name. Worst case, I get a bad credit score. I'm not paying a dime. You can't do anything about it." My father was so furious he almost had a breakdown. And yet now, that same man had come crawling back, repaying the full debt, personally delivering an apology. Was the sun rising in the west today? Still, it was undeniably good news. My father was overjoyed. With a long sigh of relief and pride, he muttered, "My baby girl really is this family's lucky star." Feeling inspired, he called his secretary into the room and declared, "Our company is on the rise. From now on, everyone must push harder. Next month, double the bonuses." The secretary nodded enthusiastically, smiling. "Chairman Carter, your leadership is truly brilliant. With the mayor backing you personally, who would dare say you're not reliable now?" My father suddenly froze. "The mayor? Why would the mayor be involved in this small company of mine?" The secretary looked surprised. "Oh, I just assumed you knew the mayor." "I'm not completely sure myself. Just overheard something when that man came to repay the money. Someone from his team said the mayor had personally called and told him to settle the debt immediately or face consequences." My father had never even met the mayor in person. There was no connection, no reason for such intervention. Then he recalled the conversation he'd overheard in the hospital hallway the night before. His expression darkened instantly. Waving his secretary away, he stood up abruptly and rushed out of the company building. He drove straight to the hospital where my mother worked. The moment they met, she asked anxiously, "Do you think something's happened to Dara?" Before he could answer, a young nurse entered the room, carrying 2 slices of cake with a cheerful smile. "Chief Lee, it's your birthday today. HR bought cake for everyone. I saw you were busy earlier, so I waited until now to bring it over." My mother stiffened. "Happy birthday," the nurse added with a grin. It took her a moment to respond. She forced a smile, reached out to accept the cake, and muttered a quiet thanks. The nurse beamed and walked away, but my mother's face remained frozen. It was her birthday too. My mother stared at the untouched slices of cake and mumbled, "Do you think, at her workplace, anyone bought Dara a birthday cake? Maybe we should try going to that place, that bar she worked at?" My father nodded. "Let's check it out." So the two of them drove to Bar Phoenix, the last place I had worked undercover. But when they arrived, they found the front door locked tight, a large red seized notice plastered across it. They stood outside for a while, circling the entrance in silence, then turned to leave, disappointed. "This place deserved to be shut down," my father muttered. "Good riddance." Just then, an old woman carrying a bag of vegetables walked past. She stopped, shaking her head with a sigh. "Back when this bar was open, drunkards would swarm outside every night. fights, chaos. Sometimes they even dragged girls off. We locals had to avoid this street altogether. Curious, my father asked, "Did no one report it to the police?" "Oh, plenty did," the old woman replied. "But every time, the case was dropped for lack of evidence." My mother chimed in. "Then how come it got shut down now?" The old woman lowered her voice. "I heard a young woman, an undercover cop, managed to gather enough evidence. Thanks to her, the whole operation was busted. Poor girl died horribly, though. Such a good person. What a shame. They say her own parents never even cared for her. She grew up neglected. Probably still don't know she's dead." She sighed again and staggered off down the road with her bag of groceries. My parents looked at each other, panic growing in their eyes, then rushed back to the car. They drove straight home, burst into the storage room, and began tearing through everything in sight, desperately searching for any trace of me. But there was nothing. No scent, no presence, not even a shadow of who I once was. Ever since I left for college, they had remodeled my bedroom into a home office. During summer or holiday visits, I was only allowed to sleep on the living room couch. My parents collapsed to the floor, drained of all strength. But then my mother suddenly stood up, grabbed my father's arm, and dragged him out the door. "We'll go see Miss Julia, Dara's old homeroom teacher. She always cared about Dara. She must know where she is." They raced to the school office, where Miss Julia was grading papers. After hearing why they had come, her expression turned icy. Her graying hair seemed to bristle with anger. "Parents like you exist in this world? You didn't even know which university your daughter got into?" My parents hung their heads in shame, stammering, "We're sorry. Things were hectic at work back then. We didn't pay attention." Miss Julia slammed her red pen down on the desk. "Everyone's busy. That's not an excuse. If you were really that busy, how did you still find time to cook and bring meals to your precious older daughter every single day? I remember clearly. You two took turns delivering lunch to baby on campus." My parents fell silent. Perhaps they had forgotten. Mr. and Mrs. Carter had once been the homeroom teachers of my older sister. Back then, she had casually complained that the cafeteria food was terrible. And just like that, my parents began taking turns cooking fresh meals and delivering them to her at school. As for me, I never once received so much as a cold lunchbox from them. "We're so sorry," my parents said repeatedly. "It was our first time being parents. We made mistakes and neglected Dara. But now, we want to make it right. We want to be better parents." Miss Julia was silent for a long while before finally letting out a sigh. "Well, blood is still blood. If you can make peace and make things right, that would be the best outcome for everyone. But," her voice grew distant, "ever since Dara started her 3rd year, she stopped contacting me altogether. I don't know where she is anymore." Disappointed, but at least with a clue, my parents left and immediately drove to the police academy, hoping to find out more. The administrative officer at the front desk entered Dara's ID number into the system. After a moment, she looked up at them with a cold, judgmental gaze. "Your daughter was expelled in her 2nd year for serious violations of school rules. That's why there's no record of her graduation." My parents froze, then quickly protested. "That's impossible. Our daughter received the Outstanding Student Award every year. She was even honored at graduation. She used her scholarship money to buy us scarves and mugs. Don't you remember?" The officer smirked. "Scholarships? Honors? Your daughter faked all of it to deceive you. That money wasn't real. None of it was." "No," my mother whispered. "Maybe she exaggerated. Maybe she lied a little. But Dara would never do anything illegal." The officer's expression turned icy. She didn't respond. Right then, my mother's phone began ringing nonstop. It was the hospital. They rushed back, straight to the emergency unit, just as my sister's post-op emergency had ended. "Dr. Lee," the attending physician said with a pained look, "your daughter had a severe rejection reaction. The cornea transplant has failed." "What? That's not possible. Everything was fine before." my parents cried out, panicked. They ran to her side, eyes wide with fear. We reviewed the surveillance, the doctor explained. She dismissed the nurses from her room and went down to the first floor alone for quite a while. It seems she didn't follow post-op care instructions and may have eaten something she shouldn't have. My parents nearly collapsed. Their legs buckled beneath them. My mother nearly fainted on the spot. At that moment, my sister began to stir as the anesthesia wore off. Immediately, my parents rushed to her side, voices trembling. "Sweetheart, are you feeling any better?" "Don't worry, baby. We'll find a way. We'll get you another cornea transplant, we promise. Everything's going to be okay." But as my sister woke up, she angrily shoved our parents' hands away. "Why didn't you come to the hospital earlier today?" she snapped. "Now that I've gone blind again, now you show up? Where were you before? This is your fault. Who even gave you the idea to donate me such lousy corneas? Trash. All that pain for nothing," she scoffed, her voice full of contempt. "If there's ever a next time, you better choose corneas from someone young, beautiful, healthy, with perfect vision." A nearby doctor, who had been silent until now, finally couldn't hold back. His voice rose, trembling with restrained rage. "Do you have any idea what you're saying?" He turned sharply toward my parents. "The donor was a young female officer, a policewoman who died in the line of duty. And today just so happens to be her 24th birthday." My parents looked like they'd been struck by lightning, spinning to face the doctor. The other doctor's voice was tense, filled with disbelief. "I was personally in charge of her case. There's no mistake. She was officially recognized as a fallen officer. And now, this?" My mother trembled uncontrollably. She clutched my father's arm so tightly, her fingernails dug into his skin, drawing blood. "It's her. It has to be Dara. That day, when I handled her corneas, I knew something felt off. In all my years as a surgeon, I've never had a feeling like that. She was our daughter. She was our daughter. She died horribly, and she was brilliant, always. Even in death, she was a hero. If it weren't for her sacrifice, I wouldn't have been promoted, and your company wouldn't have survived. Everything we have now, it was bought with her life." My mother broke down, sobbing, her cries echoing down the hospital halls. Tears streamed endlessly down her face. My father, eyes bloodshot, pulled her into an embrace. His face twisted with regret, so raw it hurt to see. And then, "Why are you crying?" a voice barked from the bed. My sister, lying with bandages still around her eyes, snarled, "What's all this mourning about? Didn't you both always wish she was dead? Well, congrats. She's dead now. So why the fake tears? Who are you putting on a show for? That useless girl. Good riddance. She should have died years ago." Her venomous words poured out like poison. My father's hands clenched into fists. Rage overtook him. In a flash, he raised his hand and slapped her hard across the face. Her cheek immediately swelled up, marked with the red imprint of his fingers. She stared at him, stunned. "You hit me?" she screamed. "Because of her, you hit me? You've never even scolded me, not once, not my whole life." All the punishments, all the yelling in that house, they had always been reserved for me. "If it weren't for Dara, you never would have received that transplant," my father roared. "She gave you something priceless, and you destroyed it. That was the last thing she left us, her final gift, and you ruined it. The one who deserves to die is you." Tears erupted again as he screamed her name. "Baby! Oh God, baby!" His voice cracked and broke, overcome by grief and fury. "I never wanted her cornea!" my sister screamed. "If I had known it came from her, I would have never accepted the transplant." She flew into a rage, voice shrill. "You did this on purpose, didn't you? You knew it was hers, and still gave it to me. So I'd see the world through her eyes and be haunted by her every single day." She turned to my mother, eyes filled with hate. "This is all your fault. You made me go through this pain for nothing. I'm blind again because of you." Screaming, she suddenly lunged toward the table, grabbing a sharp fruit knife. In her madness, she drove it straight into my mother's chest. My father rushed to stop her, but before he could intervene, she pulled the blade out, then turned and plunged it into his neck. Both of them collapsed to the floor, convulsing in agony. Blood spread across the white tiles like a crimson tide. My sister stood there, drenched in blood, laughing maniacally. "Serves you right!" she shrieked. "You ruined my life. This is what you deserve." Her sanity shattered completely. The trauma and the blindness pushed her over the edge. She was later declared permanently psychotic and committed to a high-security psychiatric facility. My parents, due to the severity of their injuries, never recovered. Their health declined rapidly. Multiple infections and repeated hospitalizations led to their deaths not long after. My grandmother was moved to a private senior care center. She brought Dusty, the orange tabby, to live with her. On sunny days, she would sit quietly on the patio with Dusty curled in her lap, soaking in the warmth. "Dusty," she would whisper gently, "what do you think? Where do you think Dara is now? I bet she's doing well somewhere, right? That girl, it's been a long time since she came to visit, but that's okay. I know she's busy. Her work must keep her from coming home. I understand. Whether she comes back or not, she'll always be the treasure of my heart." With that, Grandma drifted off to sleep, her voice barely a whisper. I sat beside her, silently watching her peaceful face, resting my cheek softly against her thin, wrinkled arm. Dusty lay curled at my feet, quietly asleep, his little body rising and falling with each calm breath.